everywhere now in the news. They're preparing you for it. These floods are unstoppable. We might have to move to start to plant in the deserts. Now, on to the floods. This is just a list of the floods in like the first week or so, first 10 days in America that were notable to the point where that part of the country stopped, or those areas within the state just stopped. I mean, emergency rescues everywhere. So if you look at July 4th through the 9th, 5 day, 13 states have incredible flooding. And we saw the stuff in Texas, and we saw also the other floods in North Carolina and New Mexico. Ransom can attest that, my co-host on the Civilization Cycle radio program Thursday nights. Oklahoma, Illinois, Massachusetts, Virginia, Rhode Island, Connecticut, massive, massive floods there as well. Iowa, Wisconsin, like all of these were national news stories, but very few of them were really pushed. And I'm wondering why they wouldn't go further on that. But here's your map. Anywhere you see a green dot, massive floods. So you start to look at that and say, what is going on with all this flooding that's happening? The Hunga Tonga eruption is finally, most of the moisture is coming out of the atmosphere now. This is like that last drift out is occurring during the next 6 months to a year, according to the research that I've been reading about. So the last of the drift, if you will, is going to be more fog-like versus raindrop-like. The best way is explained, the density of it. So as we come through, then would that not make sense why there's so many rain events occurring? Why the ocean salinity has changed? Because if you had 14% more moisture in the atmosphere and it all comes out in the same uniform fashion, pretty much across 3 years, top layer of the ocean is going to be less saline because it's just continually dumped on. Normally it would be bands of thunderstorms, it'd be an intertropical convergence zone, monsoon, a lot of different drivers like this, but you have this uniform sort of density, and then it all comes out at the same time of our atmosphere. Then you would start to see, and then all the clouds bunching on themselves because there's an overabundance of that ring out river from the sky phenomenon. Now check this out. This is in Europe, and I'll narrate through it, but I am just mind boggled here. This is not AI. This is what were the floods that occurred last year through Germany, Czech Republic going down the Rhine. There were a whole bunch of different Danube floods, and the water's rising so fast, and you can see the overspill out of that, and it goes right above the houses so quickly. Now, apparently Texas was just like this, but obviously we're in Europe looking at the same thing coming down the major rivers there, and you can see the width of the rivers is far wider than anything that was in Texas, but that was an entire valley. Look at this far. It looks like an inland sea. The water's unstoppable at that point. Now, this is starting to be the copy paste fingerprint of everything happening. These are the same floods through those several days that were seen through the different cams as the rivers filled up from different locations. But the water came in fast. It's a sped up video, but you can get an idea of, how deep it got. And people getting out of the way. I mean, what are you going to do with your home? Those homes are gone. This is why the insurance companies really don't want to insure, and they're really kind of, tweaking in on no insurance zones right now. So all of our insurance premiums across the world, and especially in the United States, are going up because of this. Had to stop that. So the reason I say that, the warning systems continually seem to be breaking down. So things I trust more than the government, number 2,638. Yeah. I would trust this over the warning systems that are non-functional at the moment and are not giving us the warnings that we need. I cannot believe people in local areas couldn't sit there and look at their own local forecasts at a radar Doppler and then press a button and go, we got a huge problem, that no warnings were given. That's the state we're in. That's what I'm saying. This society breaks down when we get to these food shortages. And are we at this cycle again? Because the world is changing so much, so much. There has to be something else going on, because this forced change, if everything's stable, why would governments want to change the entire planet all in unison, every country all together, working together, all 200 nations together in one giant step forward? Unless something else was here that is literally an extinction level, we need to prepare event. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world. And also, thank you, Diamond, over at the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Threw this one up here. This is from Ben Knoll. The dew points for July, well above. Again, we're talking about dissipation of the Hunga Tonga water vapor coming out of the atmosphere. That would explain this as well. Heavier fogs, heavier, denser hails, which is driving down a lot of aircraft right now. So look at how much green or above well average that is. That's an enormous amount of land mass. It's happening across the planet as well. This is not just in one place. So you see the upset and balance of all the normal crops that are being grown, and it makes sense. We're at that rollover point, and Hunga Tonga would be probably the trigger for at least this round. Now, will it last forever? No. But we're definitely going into decreased crop yields, increasing prices well above what we've seen through the last 4 or 5 years, depending if you want to start 2019. But that was a level step up, and we leveled. Now we're going to go another whole step up from that. That's where we're going. And then you can see why governments might be panicked. You know, here's the meandering magnetic north. Now it's shot past geographic north. But if you go back even several thousand years, it's like a drunken sailor moving all over the place. It is not stable at all. But the trajectory of it right now is going toward Russia. And it should land somewhere in transit over the Kamchatka Peninsula. Not sure exactly where it will meet, but that's what we have so far for 2025. And in the clip, as we're going 60 some miles per year now off. So if you do any kind of navigation, 60 miles is 1 degree. Animals, look how many degrees off that is now. So we do that 3 degrees. That's like 180 miles. I think animals might be off in their migration patterns magnetically if we're moving that many degrees across every year now. Because I want to bring you back, case in point. I mean, this here, people just don't abandon this type of architecture unless something drastic and catastrophic happened. How many, examples of this have we seen through just the last 500 years? Just the most amazing cathedrals and cities and architectural works just abandoned. And now we in our, modern times, since the 1850s, 1860s-ish, have started to put it all back together again. There was a collapse period at that point too. Maunder minimum, 1640s. This construction dates are, sort of in non-agreement so far in terms of the technologies, the times, the time frames, the amount of people, and how many years it took, and then the sudden just complete abandonment of these. Right behind me, it's another example. So wherever you look back in history, we have these great societies rise, and then something just stops them, and they abandon it. And the people who subsequently follow, either they're not enough of them, or they just don't have the skills and have lost the knowledge, and these places turn into rubble and crumble. That's a beautiful cathedral. That should not be in ruins. If you had the wherewithal and you knew how to, after whatever event, 10 years of crop shortages, the society should just pick right up where it was when the food starts to grow again. Or something else happens at that point and not. And one more of the bizarre. This is, where do you think it is? This giant hail is United Arab Emirates. Yep, right over near Saudi Arabia, the UAE. So it's happening across the planet. This is what Ransom Godwin and myself talk about every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. You can check us out at Civilization Cycle on Rumble. That's our seed point where we broadcast from. Please join us there. The comments are live. We try to answer those, as well as buy me a coffee, Civilization Cycle, and check out the show notes. We send those off on a weekly of what we talked about during the 2 hours at civilizationcycle.com. Please join us, because we all need to get in this conversation. We're all involved in what's happening, and it's here. It's at the doorstep. Bye for now.